Hello everyone and welcome to the first gathering of the Advancement Centre. As you can see, it's quite an emotional time for me. So it'll take a little bit for me to settle down as I connect to each one of you and take on the field that I normally work in, where I'm totally connected to everyone. It's a difficult time in many people's lives, but in fact, that's the movement forward. And right now is a perfect time for us to step off one boat and onto the other. They're both in line and we can take on our new life, the one we waited for so long, just with one step, and that's without any understanding or any need for explanation. You've all come to this point where you've brought a whole picture with you that has never fitted in this world. And although you've done a lot of work to make things happen so that it did fit, it's still a little bit like rubber. It keeps popping back to where it was. So what I'm here to do is to start the movement towards the world that everybody understands we should be in. And that movement is going to be very fast. The elegance of every being is starting to show. And with that elegance comes a whole different framework of life. Not just thought, not concept, not even circumstance. We don't have to know how to do it. We brought the whole lot with us and we're about to launch into everything and anything that feels like advancement. The greatest thing within everyone is the feeling of advancement. It got screwed up by people wanting to be healed, but it's not how it is. It's advancement you need. Forget the healing, just leave it behind. Move into a world that works perfectly. And it works perfectly because of you. Not because of what you can do or what you can prove or what you can show to anybody. It works because of what you can show to you. And the fact that we all fit together perfectly has been forgotten. There's never a case of any interaction that is not perfect. When you're in the world that you remember, the one that has no conflict and it has no reason to be anything but totally perfect. So we're about to step forward in a big way. And today is a small part, even though it'll seem to be rather monstrous and cumbersome to start with. But you can all feel that there's something that is external to you and internal and way beyond you that is connected to you. And you're starting to understand a lot of things from science that is usually around 200 years behind. So you're learning from old technology, old people, old thinking, and it's just taking you back around to a spot where you have to restart every day. Otherwise, you can't move forward. So from here on, we don't go backwards at all. We don't take any notice of anything except what comes to us. And in doing that, you find that all the things that you've been playing with, all the dimensions, all the possibilities, all the visitors, all the spaceships, all the technology that has been hidden, all the manipulation, all disappear into one beautiful dance where you don't have to focus on any of them, where all that grows around you because you're here. Like a flower, you can then gain the scent of everything. you can feel what's happening, and you can adjust what's happening by adjusting that feeling. This is the real essence of humanity. I've spent much time showing people what is actually incorrect in what they're looking at, and what is so beautiful about what you look at. But now that's over, because everybody is really in contact with themselves and with everything that's around them, and with the beautiful energy that we all feel together. It has no limitation in distance, in media, in anything, and it's instant. And that communication has many levels, both verbal, thought, and beyond. And that's why we're starting to talk about being beyond technology. What we can do in and around the world and in the universe while we sit still, while we get about our everyday business, is amazing. And there's no limit to what we can do to feel the advancement that we need to feel. Some people might want to ride a bicycle that they've never done before. Others want to go to the moon. Others just want to feel good. People want to see the beauty of the world. It's all here. Even the work practices we have will disappear because they're not necessary. We've experienced that over the last couple of years with us all working together, and we've achieved enormous, what would you call it, expertise in areas that we never ever looked at before. We're doing all this because there are a group of us that decided that'd be nice to do. And so instead of just playing with electronics, we've advanced way beyond what most people even learn in university. We're accessing the latest of the cloud systems. We're accessing technologies in web development, in Apple development, in apps, and we're really even playing with the new Apple Watch. So it doesn't limit anything in the feeling of development. It's only a few months ago that we heard about 3D printing. So what do? We all got together and got a 3D printer and figured out how to work it. And we've got plastic models of all sorts of things all around the place. And as soon as we knew we could do it, we then passed it on to one of Barbara's grandkids. And this is the sort of thing that I'm saying comes to you in a practical area because you have a feeling that you should know that. Not sure why, but you just go and do it. And as we gather together, suddenly everybody around us knows how to do it. They understand the technology, they understand much more than it, and then they can see where to use it, what aspects are going to help people through their life, and how we're going to all work together to produce an income that supports many hundreds of thousands of people. So the plan developed itself through the requests that everybody brought to this world. And we all know that we need and are going to have advancement centres right throughout the world. And they won't be necessarily geographic, even though you'll be able to register them as a geographic organisation or a company or whatever you like. But in fact, nobody really knows who's part of any centre or what we're about to do. It's not based on plans that come from here. It's based on plans that have been inside us since well before we got here. And so to open all that up from a base that doesn't understand seems to be very difficult. But it's a little bit like climbing on an aeroplane. You can't take your favourite chair with you. You can't bring the stuff that you've got hanging around your walls. You have to leave everything behind and step on the aeroplane. Doesn't mean you can't come back, but most times you want the adventure, leave everything behind and go with it. And mingle with people while you're sitting still. The fact that, you know, we have great internet services and everything now, and great social services, is not what it seems. We've got them because it's the best copy they could make of what we are. Our communication system leaves it for dead. Like, your child starts to misbehave, they know straight away they're in trouble. Yet you're in another town. That communication system has always worked. All we have to do is see that it is much more effective than anything we've ever built. I was watching the final movie of 0 Point this morning, just to see what they came up with. And it's amazing that most of the research they did in the 50s is now coming out as the latest. In the 50s, mind you. We've known that since we were born. We've known you can see things in the distance. You can transmit things. You can change how the flowers grow. You know, if you get an angry town, there's all of a sudden a fault underneath there and it starts earthquaking and all sorts of things like that. Whereas the reverse to what is presented, people don't just live on a fault line. The fault line's there because of the people. And in an instant, we can change that. And it seems like you need feedback, but you don't. Because once you take off on that aeroplane, you really don't want to know who's carrying somebody's bag down on the ground. Those are different references. And where we're going is a totally different reference to everything we've really known in the past. Our ability to change the world is based on us standing in that place where we have access to change the world. It's as simple as that. So as we step forward in advancement, we're always ahead of the curve, or sitting on top of the wave, as I always used to say. And in doing that, we start this amazing, unsymmetrical dance with one another, with the world, with everything in it, and even with the very fabric of existence, to the extent where the world just changes if it needs to, where reality actually bends and a truck disappears off the road and appears behind you so that it wouldn't hurt you. All those things are now in our hands to work with, but not to work against. You'll get to know what that means after a while. In this world, as it is now, unless you work against something, you don't feel any security. You have to have something to lean on, or to criticize, or to analyze, and pull it down to the point where it meets your ability to sense it in your world. Where we're going, you don't need any of that. You don't even need to know, because everything that's needed for you in every moment is streaming into you, straight past the brain and into an operating system that extends throughout the universe. So it's both within you, around you, and throughout the universe, all at once. They demonstrated the best they could with the action of the brain and the field around it in this movie. And I almost laughed because it's got nothing to do with the brain. It's to do with everything that the brain connects to. So your whole mechanism and the whole system is so much bigger than what we've been focusing on. And you'll all remember how you can sit in almost meditative state and make yourself bigger than the house, bigger than the town, or bigger than the world. Or you can visit the other side of the world, or you can look down on anything you want. And if you want to, you can look through somebody else's eyes. And they've proven that that's possible. But we've been walking around reprogramming ourselves every minute by working against what is actually real. So in advancement, it's not a matter of getting it right. In fact, advancement means you must have got it right, just not the same as someone else. If you feel you've advanced, even if you kicked your toe, you did the right thing. If you get up and decide to visit somebody and they're not home, or they say, "What are you doing here?" you still did the right thing. You advanced and you stepped into something. The result doesn't matter, except in you. And that's what produces the dance. It's like skiing, and I've mentioned that before. You take off and you go down the hill, and if you look straight ahead of you and decide to go straight ahead, you're going to go off the cliff. But there's a point when you know where to turn, and it's not in front of you until it happens. You don't plan your trip. You move in and out of things in a dance that is a combination of the terrain, how you feel, what your speed is, what your balance is, and it's all based on that feeling of elation that you live with. So if you can just reverse all that, you'll see that the feeling of elation is actually the control system. That's what determines every movement. That's what determines advancement. The simplicity of that knowing does a complex mix of all these different things to maintain itself. And you don't have to control it. You just maintain that joyful position, the exhilaration of movement, call it what you like. It is a signal that comes from you, and you think it's the other way around. You think it's the result of all these things. It's not. So as we move and advance in every area, you'll find the simplicity is the key to everything. And you watch the world change when you take on the joy without adding an adjective or having a reason for the joy. If you don't have a reason, you don't have an objection. Therefore, it's always there. In everything we're going to do, we will open up those simple points to show you how many millions of places you stand in every day to generate the world around you. And they're all based on that simplicity of this is perfect. Right down to where you stand or sit, or how you move, or how you lay in bed. The interaction between us is going to change. It gets better and better and better because we do not affect one another. The fineness of every movement is based on the same principle as that feeling of elation when you've achieved something, anything, particularly something that is at high speed and is considered almost impossible. So now that we look at those things, you wonder, how are we going to do this? And each time I look at it, I get an answer that says, you'll know when you get there. But I know that I need to pass on a little bit more than that. So I wrote a bit this morning, and what was said was pretty significant, that this is my story that I have to get across to everyone so that they can realise that it's true. But I don't have to prove anything. So all I can tell you is, right from the time I first arrived on Earth, and that might sound strange to those who don't know me, but right from the time I realised I was on Earth as a different being, I've always looked towards going forward. In the hospital, I got up and started to make myself better because I had to improve. I had no idea about what anybody else was doing. And that sort of put me offside with everyone because they wanted control, because that's the system. And for some reason, that was the first feeling of put down I ever had. But because I didn't know any of the system, it worked and I got better. Took some time, but there are many things to fix when you get a new body. And the next thing that people couldn't understand was when I suddenly decided I should know about computers. And within 5 or 6 weeks, I was up there with the best of any of them. And it wasn't long before I had my own computer shop and a whole lot. And I'd never really worked with it before. The people that worked with me that didn't know my history were really impressed. The people that knew my history said, no, you can't do that because you haven't spent enough time studying. Yet I understand from both sides how one can exist and the other at the same time. I've now got to a point where I can see that if I can see everything and take on everything, it all fits in the dance. You don't leave anything out. It's just one of those things that if it all comes together, it's because you included everything. You leave everything out, it doesn't come together, you haven't got that thrill. You know, even someone disturbing your flow has to be there for you to change direction. It's one of the things that you send out to control the world around you so that you have that feeling of elation. If it all went really in a straight line and smooth, it wouldn't feel the same. And it's that sense of impossibility we all need to conquer, maybe, but I think we just need it because we produced it. So you've heard many of the educated people say, well, you know, if it's happening to you, you've got to be responsible somehow. Well, in fact, that's true, but not from the level that they're talking about. Not from a head level, not from an action level, but from a level that's far beyond that in the simplicity and the beauty of your life. So without focusing on the individual bits, you work really well. So you walk really smoothly, you look good, you're coordinated, you act the way you want to act, until you focus on any one of the items associated with those results. You start to figure out how to walk, you walk really crazy. You start to figure out how to look, you look really stressed. You start to figure out how smooth you walk, you look really jerky. So the elegance of each one of us is based on what we put out, not what we bring in. So we went through a long stage of saying everything comes from the heart. Well, you know what? It does in one sense, but that's only a small part of you. Because if you want to overload your heart, put everything through it. The things that we can transmit right throughout the universe is a whole different system. It is all part of you that's out there, and you don't take it in here. And that's why in my little book, Your Personal Supercomputer, I've got simple exercises of how to decouple your energy field. That is the first basic principle of allowing you to walk away from your body. And this is what we're doing now. Body's comfortable, doing its thing, looks great, working perfectly. Now we can walk away and do the things that we need in the universe. Do the things that we need up the road. Make sure the kids are okay. While the body's watching television, it's fine. But it can only do it if you decouple that energy that says, I am your energy body. And as you decouple it, you start to feel the flowers and the beauty around you, and you watch the sunrise and the sunset, and it all becomes a big part of your life because you decoupled that field that belongs to the world. To actually walk out there and sit in the tree like a young child, you'll smile because you know you did it. The birds appear not just around your body, but they appear around everything you're in touch with. The activity of the whole world changes because you've decided to decouple that energy and be the most complex being ever generated in the universe. All run by simplicity. So as we look at many, many things, there's a sense of, well, what's the mechanism going to be for us to take the next step? There is none. It's continuous, it keeps growing, and it keeps blowing your mind. And that's where we're heading. And from this point onward, we'll be in contact on all sorts of things. And you don't have to limit it to spiritual or well-being or anything like that. You want to build an airplane? Talk to us. You want to build a train? Talk to us. You want to build a boat? Talk to us. We've done it all. All of us have an input into every one of those actions. Everyone has a relative or a son or a daughter that has done the amazing. And they don't think they're part of it? Of course they are. That's good. I can feel you all. You're not left out. This is where the measuring system has killed us, and now we're just throwing it away. Because the measuring system is, boy, if that person didn't get up and have their breakfast on this day, they wouldn't have made that invention. Who did that? The mother that's now a grandmother, that's sitting there and says, I really can't afford any more than what I got. We're going to change that. This is our whole intention. And it's not a measuring system that has a limit. We will generate income from the most impossible things. And we will build whatever we need to build to do that. And we won't stop in this country. or any country, because the people from every country will be doing it simultaneously, and no one will know where it's coming from. You cannot stop the advancement of humanity. Humanity is an entity, a very powerful entity, that will have its way. And just because it's got a few fleas on its surface, it's not going to make any difference. They can hang in there and change, or that you don't have to eliminate them. They're too big for that. So everybody who's focusing on, we've got to fix this, we've got to fix that, just leave it behind. Get on the plane or the boat and go to where you're supposed to go, where you feel the excitement, the enjoyment, the joy, the celebration, all the things that drive your future. And if you're skiing down a hill and you do a major turn and you get that thrill, so does everybody that knows you. So does everybody in the world. Because next thing you'll find, they're all trying it. Wonder how that happens. So our advancement will take on a form of simplicity, excitement, and bounding after your spirit, hoping you can catch up with it. We've got a major, major driving function that we keep forgetting. Yet whenever it pops out, it surprises everyone. When you see a person's spirit soar, you can't help yourself. You just jump up and go, yeah. And there is the key to the future. Every time, every time we speak to one another, in the present world, it has a reason. In the world we're going into, speaking to one another allows us to generate a new language. A language that's hidden behind our words. So conversation is so important, and women know that. But what's happening in this world is conversation is manipulated instead of it allowing the language of the universe to generate itself within that conversation. And most times you won't even remember the detail of the conversation, but you will know, wow, that was good. I really enjoyed that conversation. The analytical part of your education will disappear. And the communication that you have will allow you to blend the mixtures of real data, unreal data, and amazing data that takes a form that you can't put in words. So the old reading between the lines is a reality, but now we're going to take it to a much higher level. So that conversation just makes us feel good. And that's as simple as it is. Don't care what you're transmitting, because you are. You're having a conversation because you were drawn to do it. And you're enjoying the conversation. Then all of a sudden, you find your body's fit. And you didn't run around the block or lift weights. Because that gift we have for one another of a perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future is generated through conversation. Now you feel the energy flow? That's ours. That's our energy. It's not just all the people here, it's for everyone. And as we move things around a little, that changes our life. The flamboyance in everybody's conversation, in their movements, in their inflections, is part of the language. And if we can see that we're enjoying ourselves, we're actually generating that language which is controlled by simplicity. There's an amazing number of people on this earth. There's an amazing number of people you can't see. But they all enjoy mischief and fun. Everyone. Good, bad, or indifferent, that's a fact. And that's because that's the language of life. And the development of these sessions is going to go, I don't know how long, may go on forever. The only way any of us can really enjoy the future of our life is to advance in whatever way we feel. And we do that by interconnecting, by conversation, by doing the impossible, by enjoying ourselves, by being stupid, and by being like kids. And you watch how the kids respond, because they know you can see that they're following their spirit. They don't want you to stop it. They want to run around after it. They want it to lead them, because that's how they're built. The other thing that you'll notice is the everyday things people will forget. Other people will be really switched on to it. The exercise that the world went through to make everybody the same has to be dissipated. Because why would you want a whole part of the human entity with all the same features? Why would you want to remember something when you know somebody else does? And quite often, you don't even have to ask. You just wait. They'll walk up and tell you. Or a conversation will bring it out. Or you'll get an email. Or it'll just pop in. So all the future takes the load off our various stages of advancement in life. And the categories of people are enormous, but they won't be categorized by age. Because, well, even everyone who knows one another here in this room, we vary in age by an enormous amount, and generations. And in some areas we're equal, in some areas we're not. But I think there's not one person who is the same. And this is going to be the same for everybody that we know. The hundreds and thousands of people that we will touch by the time we're finished will all be different. And there is not one case of having to compete with anybody for any reason. So one of the varied inputs that I find a little difficult to handle is qualifications, education, age, because they don't mean anything. In reality, I can speak to someone 90-year-old and they'll say, well, I only feel like I'm about 6 or 7, because that's how they feel. And you'll find they're very healthy because of that. Other times you get a 20-year-old and they feel like they're 100. They look like it too. And they act like it. This will never happen if advancement is encouraged in every way, but not advancement by hard work, advancement because of itself. Because for some person, learning to sit and do nothing is really an advancement because they could never do it before. They're the things that we will interact with daily. And I don't think any of us will remember or know exactly what we're doing, except from that place where we can't get the smile off our face. And that's the indicator that we're going ahead. In all ways, we should feel that from one another. And you can do that while you're wheeling a barrow, shoveling dirt, dancing, sitting doing nothing, but more so when you're having a conversation. And that can be at the pub, in some special place, or just walking down the road. Our interaction will change a lot because we're so different. We all know we're so different. And the regular self-programming of personal speech will disappear because we're interacting. You won't have to say to yourself, oh, that was terrible. Oh, that's not nice. And programming it into yourself every minute, because the interaction will be such that there's someone who appreciates you, even if you don't appreciate yourself. And so all that funny language will disappear, and we'll be talking a language of the future, which is universal. And I've mentioned before about how easy it is for people to understand one another, even if they speak a different language, because we have a language behind it. That's where we're going, and that's where we'll find our biggest smile. So the next step is to realize that from the very, very smallest thing that's ever been built in the world to the largest project of all times, we did it. And if we want to do it, we can do it again. The only reason we're not doing it now is because somebody decided we wouldn't have access. So we'll just start again on whatever field we want. The thing that's been holding us all back is money. We're about to stop that. None of us have to know how. We just have to say we're about to stop that. And you watch what happens. Our interaction will change, and the world around us will change, and circumstance will change. And then all of a sudden, the measuring system will change. And we won't care if somebody wants to take all the stuff we got at home, because we stepped away from it. And everyone will be so busy thinking they're collecting something that's valuable, and in fact it's not, because we're the ones who determine value. Even the systems that keep us going, like the electricity, we don't have to convert everything to electricity. We got convinced that all power had to come through the electrical system. But we've had many different stages of how power should be delivered to humans. But in fact, humans delivered the power. And if we need to, somebody's cold, we can decide that they should be warm, and they will be, instantly. There are systems within systems that don't need converting. Any one of us can charge a battery, but we don't necessarily need a battery. We can use the power within us directly for the end needs that we have. And we've been giving a lot of that away by not intermingling with the fields of the earth and many things I'll show you. Because in real terms, we don't need anything except to feel beautiful and perfect and happy. And then we need to be advancing, because that's why we're on earth. That is the main part of who we are. And I think the most miserable person in the world is the one who's sitting waiting for something. So what we're offering is nothing except that interaction that allows us to actually make everything happen in a whole different way to what it does now. Because you don't have to do it the way we've been doing it. And when someone says, well, tell me how, you say, well, hang on, we'll all have a chat. And while we're talking, that will appear. The person will know exactly, but they won't be able to find the words because it's a different language. So everything I've ever done, I've picked up from this world. And I've taken on positions that really I didn't have qualifications for. And I led major projects in all sorts of areas. And I built things that you're not supposed to be able to build as a private contractor. And, I've been technical authority over the biggest parts of government in Australia and Germany and England. The registration of authorities in the electrical field and mechanical and the Navy all had to get my approval before anything was clear to go. And I was not part of any organisation except my own. But I just belonged to them because they needed me. And I had no idea that I was doing anything out of the ordinary, because I was advancing, enjoying myself. And then when I didn't enjoy myself, I left every time. So I don't publicise a lot of my history. Yet in my writing this morning, I was told I better really show a few things so that people can see that there's much more than just what I'm saying is different. I can do it in both fields, and you can too, everybody can. Advancement Centre belongs to people. And we might call it Santa Barbara Advancement Centre, and you might call it some other advancement centre. But the Advancement Centre belongs to the world, and that's the way it'll be. No matter where you go or what you do, you're a part of the Advancement Centre. No matter whose house you're going to, they'll know. Every conversation you have will be advancement. And we'll make this whole thing take off. And I believe many people have tried to do this by having community. But it's not anything like that. Community has rules. Community has organisation. Community has do's and don'ts. And that doesn't exist in the world of magic and miracles. Even when you talk about spiritual, religion, politics, beliefs, you'll find there's no place for them, because they're the things that stop you generating everything you need for that elation. It's like saying you're going skiing, but you have to keep one leg stiff. And you go, oh no, I've got to turn a corner. You have to drop the belief and then sneak it back in again before somebody can see. Otherwise, you can't do the things you do in life. So everything will become so flexible that you'll forget about it. You won't need to believe anything. You won't need to care. Because what's that to do with generating perfection? Particularly when it's not going to hurt anybody, it's just going to be part of the dance, because it's not in competition with anyone. Because you're so freaking different, you can't even get in anyone's throat, even if you try. So unless you drop your energy to a level where it all coagulates, you can't run into anyone. But if your energy is fine and brilliant and exciting, it just goes through and doesn't touch. And it just gives everyone a thrill. It's like the most brilliant people you see in any field are walking around with bright, shiny eyes and a big smile, and they look great. Some might weigh 400 pounds. They still look great, because that's our essence. And that's our future. So I think we're getting fairly close to finishing what we're talking about. Excuse me a sec. And what I want to do is just leave one thing with you, and that is, there's nothing wrong. And it doesn't matter what subject you come up with, I'm going to say there's nothing wrong. Well, what about this? But there's still nothing wrong. Well, I'd like to fix, well, don't, because you're not going to be using it tomorrow. You don't need it, you never did. But I've got this problem. Well, get rid of it. How? Leave it where it is and walk away from it. And everyone can do that. You can leave your framework where it is and step away from it. Read your personal supercomputer over and over and over and over until it becomes second nature. And even when it doesn't attract you, read it. It has that hidden language. It has the message in there behind everything. And then if you feel like it, read the books. They're a lot of fun. And we'll be back again sometime when they tell me. And you'll get a lot of communication in the meantime. So I think we're pretty close. And bless all of you. But more than that, have fun. Thank you.